Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking some time out of your day today. Hopefully, this is over your lunch break to hang out with us here at Pastor Serve. Pastor Serve, we are committed to walking alongside of pastors and ministry leaders and serving them in a number of ways: ministry coaching, consulting, leadership development. We do soul care and crisis support, all in an effort to help them thrive in both life and leadership. My name is Jason Day, and I have the opportunity to oversee our international work that we do at Pastor Serve. We currently serve across North America, throughout Latin America, and in the Caribbean. We do special projects in Europe as well. Very excited for today's conversation because I have two amazing guys who are going to be joining me. Both of them have been serving in ministry for a number of years in several different contexts. And we are going to be looking at not only what are some of the nuances and some of the differences of serving in Latin America versus serving in the U.S., but also what are some of the commonalities between all ministry leaders, regardless of context. And we're also going to be looking at how we can show appreciation for pastors and ministry leaders, because this is October and it is Pastor Appreciation Month. So at this time, I'd like to welcome two of our Pastor Serve team members to the webinar, Dean Kuest and Roberto Moreno. Dean and Roberto, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so good to have both of you with us. Now, the two of you have served as church planters, as pastors. You serve walking alongside of other pastors as incredible ministry coaches, just pouring into the lives of pastors and ministry leaders over the years. And so to begin, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges, common challenges that pastors and ministry leaders have. And I'm going to start with you, Dean. If you can share, what are some of the burdens, some of the challenges that you are working with other pastors through, or that you experienced yourself in ministry in the U.S.?
Well, I just got back from a event with about 60 different pastors from around the country. And we asked this very question: what are the burdens that you bring into this event with you? And the number one was the way that politics have impacted their church now. Yeah. And it's just a heavy burden on pastors right now.
Yeah, absolutely. In the U.S., there is a lot of tension around politics. We know that. And that's interesting that is what they raised as the biggest burden that they're facing, the biggest challenge they're facing right now. Roberto, for you, brother, thinking to ministry across Latin America. And of course, we know with Latin America, we paint with a broad brushstroke because Latin America is unique, so many different contexts, different countries, different cultures. But Roberto, as you're thinking back along ministry in Latin America, in working with Latino pastors, what are some of the challenges that they are experiencing?
Well, they do vary very much, and yes, I agree with that. Some depends the country, depends the environment, depends if the well, some of the challenges is that, for example, myself. I want to talk about myself. My father was a pastor, so I grew up in this environment of pastoral home, and first of all, for me, myself, he set the bar so high. He was a full-time minister, and I always been bivocational. And I think that, that's part of what I see now changing in Latin America, especially in Mexico, Central America, that pastors are becoming more bivocational, which brings a lot of stress and a lot of, different challenges, and it brings some burdens, to the life, and often to continue struggling with the same thing. And I see that more in Latin America now, and of course here in the U.S. with the Hispanic pastors too.
Yeah, absolutely. That bivocational piece, Roberto, can be a challenge because you're being stretched even more, right? You're trying to serve in ministry, but you're also working another job to help provide for your family. So resources can be more scarce, and that presents a lot of challenges in and of itself. When you're looking at cultural contexts and just kind of reflecting on how they kind of impact pastors, what are some of the ways that the culture, and I'll start with you, Roberto, cultures in Latin America impact the life of a pastor or a pastor's family?
Yes, yes, and also varies because there are some areas or countries or regions where the culture and the community are very humble, and they don't have many economic resources or intellectual resources, so they expect that their pastor, their leader, uh, to be at the same level what they are,
Hmm.
and that suspects that's the way that I see it through the years. However, if the community is middle class and they're professionals like in the city and all that, they also looking for their pastors to be well trained, very professional, and they sometimes they expect to have a better man, to that. So it varies, depends the area, the country, the region, and so those are really, really very important things that they struggle with, and they look at as a ministry. So that's what I see through the years.
Yeah, it's interesting, Roberto, how the surrounding culture, whether it's a more rural culture or an urban culture, maybe even the education of the congregation or the surrounding area, that they're looking for their pastor to kind of reflect that same thing.
That's
That
it.
that's how they're connecting with them. Dean, for you, what are some things that you see? How does culture impact pastors or pastors' families?
Yeah, I think depending upon where you're serving, um, and again, I think in the Americas right now, it goes back to politics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whether you're in a blue area or a red area, I think if you're in a blue area of our country, or you're expected to be even more conservative, like
Mm,
fighting against the culture, rather than leaning in or being part of loving the culture. Um, if you're in a red part of the country, then there's a lot of different options for people to choose from. And so the burden on a lot of pastors right now is, will people stay, um, as we're trying to navigate what it looks like to be gospel professing Christians within kind of this political sphere of our state that we live in, and or will they go somewhere else where they hear what they want to hear?
yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting because in the US with the political climate right now, it seems that um pastors are recognizing the culture around them and the influence and impact it could have, and they're trying to live in that tension to ensure that it doesn't have too much of an influence.
Right,
But they have to take it into account in the way that they're reaching in within their community and serving and connecting with people who are far from God.
right.
Um, very, very interesting. As we think about ministry and the idea of the community, we've just kind of mentioned that. Um, we think about the community surrounding a church or a pastor and their families are serving. We think of the idea of even family, right?
Mhm.
In the U.S., Dean, um, how what role does community and what role does family play in pastoral ministry? That you have seen, that you've experienced yourself maybe, or that you've seen in the lives of other pastors and ministry leaders?
Yeah, I mean, I think family is a huge role. I'm a preacher's kid, and I raised 5 preacher's kids as I was in ministry.
Right.
I think people long for healthy families. And when you as a pastor, as you as a church can model health within your family with authenticity, because it's never perfect and it's never, it's never easy all the time.
Right.
I think there's something that creates a draw to a church community when you do that authentically.
Yeah, absolutely. Roberto, what role does family play in churches and pastors ministering in Latin America countries? How does family impact that?
Oh, that's all kinds of different stories that I could tell, but yes, it's very important. Uh, Many times, when you're serving and you're committed to the church and to the gospel and doing your ministry, you some ways you invest more time in the ministry, and some way you set up start making a part of the family or putting in a second place.
Mm.
And we have, well, the consequence of that is that we losing the children of the pastors and the ministry. But it's changing now in Latin America. We have a strong value for the family. So it's a great challenge for the pastor, especially if he's a bivocational, to minister his family, to take care of his family, to give him the the supposed to be our first ministry,
Mm.
home. But it's always a big challenge, but it's changing, and I think the new generations of pastors and leaders, they know because they've seen so many sad stories, and I have the blessing, the privilege. My father was a full-time pastor, but we were five brothers and one sister, and I always said that after God, He did something good because all of us are pastors, and my and my sister. Well, we have a son evangelist, but and my sister is a co-pastor in a church. So, but it's a huge challenge, and we promote pastor sir to take care of the family. And Latin America is doing good here in the States. All the thousands of uh, Hispanic churches,
Hmm.
they doing that because they see the importance of that already.
Yeah, yeah. And Roberto, you make the comment that like things seem to change generation to generation, and I think we see this commenting in the U.S. church as well as in Latino churches, is that there was an emphasis on almost pastoring. You got to be out there, you got to be doing everything, and almost like you said, Roberto, the family can be left to the side in some of those instances. But fortunately, it seems like over the last generation or so, and the work that we do at Pastor Serve, as you mentioned, Roberto, we're really helping focus and encourage
Mhm.
pastoral families and pastors themselves to invest. Like you said, Roberto, your family is your first ministry. So you want to make sure, you don't want to do everything for your church and then have somehow lost your marriage or lost your relationship with your kids. So it's so very important. It's interesting as we're thinking through ministry, because there are some obvious differences between different cultures and how the life of the pastor or the pastor's family kind of unwinds. But there are also some things that are common, and some of those things that are common are the struggles, maybe even some of the pressures that pastors and ministry leaders feel, regardless of where you might be serving. And I'd like to take just a moment, as we're thinking about this being Pastor Appreciation Month, to just talk a little bit about some of those pressures that pastors are feeling. I know we've touched on some of them already, But Dean, can you talk to us a little bit, the pastors that you're coaching, that you're working with, what are some of the
Yeah.
pressures that they're experiencing?
Yeah, I would say that the number one thing is probably loneliness. Just that, who can I be real with? Who can I be honest with? Is there a safe person in my life? And just wondering, as I struggle inside, where do I go with that?
Yeah. Yep. What about you, Roberto? What are some common things that pastors are struggling with, regardless of their context?
Definitely, I agree 100%. Perennial loneliness, which lead us to hiding a greater, vulnerability to temptation, is difficult. It's difficult for to find a community and support, from peers, from mentors outside of the church. So definitely, that's something that we have to, and we've been working so hard, to
Mhm.
the insulation you think is really for us, it's a huge sign when a pastor start calling me, my pastor, the pastors that I work with, and they stop calling, they stop, start silence, they don't write anymore. That's a I mean a yellow light. I say,
Right.
hey, and then I know something is going on, and that's when I confront, when I call and I say, hey, we got to talk, we got to, and because loneliness is so hard, especially when you have been betrayed, or experiences that you have with the peers or with the congregation, some of the leaders, those. So they that's a huge one in the life of the pastor.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Yeah, and that is true, that regardless of where you're pastoring, if you're pastoring here or on the other side of the world, the idea of loneliness, the idea of isolating yourself because of the hurt that sometimes we experience in ministry, right? I mean, you can't be in ministry without being hurt every now and again, because you're working with people, and there's a lot of brokenness in the world. And we are serving, we're ministering, and therefore there are times that we're going to be hurt. And sometimes when we're hurt, we begin to pull back, right?
Hmm.
We begin to isolate ourselves. We begin to not be quite as vulnerable. But that leads to loneliness. That leads to putting up some walls. And at that point, as we all know, Dean, Roberto, and our entire team at Pastor Serve, who works with pastors all across the world, is that we find that when pastors do not have a friend, do not have a coach or a mentor or someone else that they can be real with, right? That they can just be genuine with, and without fear of losing their job because they're struggling with doubt, or they're struggling with some hurt, they're struggling with something, some way that they're even self-medicating, whether that's just scrolling mindlessly on social media or some other way. There's got to be that safe place where pastors can have conversations, where they can be themselves, where they can get the relational healing that they need as well. One of the things that's interesting is pastors, we tend to look at how we care for the souls of others, but sometimes we forget to care for our own souls. And I think that idea of loneliness and isolation that you both brought up is so true, regardless of where a pastor might find himself or herself in ministry. As we're looking at this idea of pastor appreciation, I would love to hear maybe some personal stories from the two of you. Over the years, as you've been serving in ministry, what are some special ways, just some special memories, where maybe there was someone or a family or maybe the congregation, maybe it was a peer that just demonstrated appreciation for your ministry as a pastor? Dean, do you have an example?
Yeah, I mean, many. I mean, it could be just as little as an older lady in the church writing me a card. There's been gift cards from people who have generously given, like, an Airbnb gift card or something for my wife and I.
Yeah.
But I think the most powerful are when people have come alongside me and said, this is specifically how you've impacted my life. Like the cards and the gifts, they're nice, but when you really feel like someone is expressing gratitude for how you have impacted their life, there's nothing quite as powerful as that.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Dean. How about you, Roberto?
Uh, oh yes, definitely. There's so many, over 30 years pastoring. I learn a lot, and I enjoy some of the love that they express. And there's so many ways. Of course, the first one we really appreciate is when they tell you, Pastor, I'm praying for you. Praying for you, praying for you. That encouraged me, and I can see that they really feel something special for their leader or their pastor is, and that's something that I learned to promote too. The other thing that I really experienced, in my pastoral life was that when they understand and respect our boundaries, when they say encourage us, to take some time off. They say, Pastor, you need some rest. Why don't you just take 2 3 days, and we take care of business, Oh, that's
That
that's
is
that's
so
a
good,
good one.
Roberto.
That's
Yes.
a good one. And the hardest part of that is that many times, especially when we started our ministry, we think that nobody else can do the job except me,
Yeah.
and I always say that's a lie, because from the devil, because and that's the way when they do that. I like Pastor just say, the material things, they're nice, they're good, but when they be are responsible, committed, and they say, "Hey, we know that you need some rest. We know you need to take out your family." Oh, I love that, and I have some of that. And of course, the last thing that I want to say is that
Roberto, I think we lost you, brother.
Oh no.
All right, we'll see if Roberto jumps back on. It's probably a really good point too. He's getting to, hey, the last thing we really love, and we missed it. So we'll see if Roberto joins us. We're getting ready to wrap up.
I love
Anyway.
what he said though about encouraging your pastors to respect their boundaries. That
Oh
was so
yeah,
good.
yeah, so good, so good. One of the things, Dean, that I did early on in ministry, as those little note cards and little notes that people would send, and then even maybe a little email appreciation. I would print those out even, and I'd keep them in a drawer in my desk.
Yeah.
And this was shared with me from a mentor of mine in ministry. Said, "Hey, Jason, hang on to those, keep them close at hand, because there will be those days where you really question, God, what good am I doing?"
Yeah.
Right? Like you just feel that pressure and all the expectations, and you're like, what's going on? And there have been many days where I open up that desk drawer, pull out some of those cards, and just let God once again remind me through the words of others how God's using us in the midst of often crazy and chaotic times. So certainly appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have a folder, but I do have an email folder where I put all of my email.
Yeah, that's a good
It
thing
just
to
says
hang on to.
encouragement. It's my encouragement folder.
Yes. Yep. That's a good thing, brother. I have a question that maybe you can help us with, Dean. As we're thinking about people in the relationship with their pastor, some people feel really close to their pastor. Some people, can appreciate their pastor from afar, but maybe don't feel quite as close to them at this time. What's something that anyone could do? Maybe a small thing that anyone could do, regardless of how well they even know their pastor, at this point, that could provide some encouragement for the pastor.
I think a simple email after a message that impacted you specifically and just saying, thank you for saying that. I appreciate the work that you put into that message. Every pastor reads those.
Yeah.
And they take them in, the hard ones. And believe me, pastors get far more negative emails about their sermons than you would ever believe.
Yeah.
So I think every positive one is just something that pastors hold on to and just really appreciate.
Yeah.
And if you can be known in your church as somebody who just wants to encourage your pastor, and I so love and appreciate those people in my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I can think back to those who are just encouragements to me, to our family. And they oftentimes sustained, in those difficult days when you're getting a lot of the emails from someone who doesn't like a particular decision you made or that the church made or whatever, and wants to kind of cast blame on you. It is good to be encouraged to have those people in your life. It's interesting, Dean, in the coaching work that you do, having the opportunity to walk alongside of pastors. That's a unique thing as we think about what it means to walk alongside of a pastor, what it means to coach a pastor, and even that bit, just the idea or the opportunity that a pastor has to be coached or to have someone else speaking into their lives. That's a gift as well, and an encouragement as well to pastors, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it fights that loneliness and the isolation that we were talking about earlier. To have somebody that you can say out loud, process, whether it's frustration or have this idea, no matter what it is, it allows you to just walk alongside of them.
Yep, that's good. That's good. If you guys love your pastors, which I'm sure if you're tuning in right now, you do, I'm going to encourage you to be an encouragement to them. Just think not only during the month of October, Pastor Appreciation Month, but also throughout the year, where some little ways, small ways that you can just encourage your pastor. Maybe it is just slipping a note under their door or shooting them a text or an email, letting them know that you're praying for them. It doesn't always have to be something big. It doesn't always have to be something spectacular. Oftentimes it can just be the opportunity to say, hey, listen, what you shared recently has impacted my life in this particular way. I've always, we all appreciate whenever someone says, hey, pastor, good message. That's one thing. But when someone is able to say, wow, you made me think about something differently.
Yes.
Or
make it specific.
Yeah, make it specific. Like if there's something that you feel God is doing in your life through the ministry of your pastor, through a particular message that he or she preached, something that stands out to you, let them know those little specifics, because that gives you the opportunity to be that encouraging voice and say, hey, I can see how God is at work, in this church. So it's awesome. Well, it's been great to have Dean and Roberto with us today. Roberto's back on. Thank you, brothers, for all the work that you do in serving pastors and ministry leaders, walking alongside of them, coaching them, encouraging them, caring for them in a number of different ways. As we close down, Roberto, I would love to hear if you have any thoughts on how people can encourage their pastors or show appreciation for their pastors in ministry.
Yes, well, as I say, pray for them daily. Pray for our pastors. We have the percentages of loneliness is 90%. Every out of 10 pastors, 9 feel alone in isolation. They have no friends. The pressure and the stress is really high on them. So
pray for them.
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. Lift them up in prayer.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been a wonderful time. Thank you for joining in, all of you who are watching and listening along. to this conversation, and we just want to encourage you. Be one of those people who is an encourager. Be someone who demonstrates appreciation for your pastor. Pray for them, as Roberto said again and again. Pray for them. Let them know you're praying for them. Pray for their marriage. Pray for their families. Pray for their heart, their soul, as they're renewed and refreshed in the Spirit. Pray for the ministry, yes, but also pray for the person. That's so incredibly important. Dean, as we close down, any final thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, I think what the church needs right now is gospel-hearted people to walk alongside their pastor, and let the gospel guide you, and don't let the news media, social media, politics, let the gospel guide you.
Absolutely. I love it. Well said, brother. A great way to end our time here. Again, be praying for your pastors, encourage them. If there's any way we at Pastor Serve can help out, again, we do coaching, we do leadership development, we do soul care. So many pastors experiencing that in their lives. If there's any way we can be of service to you, or if you'd like to learn more about how you can support the ministry we're doing across Latin America and serving the pastors there and the ministry leaders there, you can learn more at pastorserve.org. So be sure to check that out. Dean, thank you for making time to hang out with us today. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you, Jason.
All right. God bless. We'll see you all.